Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. All right, this is an article from RT News. All right, came out April 12th, 2021, which is today. All right, and as you can see, it says Fed Chair warns cyber attacks pose biggest threat to U.S. economy. Okay, and as we're gonna go through now, usually, all right, if you've been paying attention, usually when they start to speak about, or when they start to put something out there, you know, you can likely expect that or something along those lines to happen soon, or something similar to that, all right, to happen soon. Okay. Now, going back to last year, all right, dealing with the whole, the whole election, so on and so forth, controversy. What's his name? The second Trump came out and started talking about it, a possibility of this, that, and the third. You already knew that there was going to be something along those lines. Same way, just as Biden started talking about gun control. All of a sudden, there's been all these, shootings. Okay, so when these people start talking about things like this, is to prepare your mind, all right, so that when it happens, it's almost as though, wow, this is what we were warning about. Okay, now it says here, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has warned that the biggest risk to the U.S. economy is the threat of cyber attacks, which could bring financial institutions to a halt by taking away their ability to track payments. And now I remember there was a video. All right, there was a video that I saw last year, and I was dealing with this individual. He was reading, basically, I don't remember exactly what it was, whether it was an email or a message from something that went on, I think, in the Canadian Parliament or something along those lines, and they were discussing, the things they were planning to do for the ending of last year into this year, so on and so forth. And I believe he mentioned how getting around to the middle, all right, of 2021, they wanted to basically have like an economic collapse. All right, that way they could usher in the universal basic income, and start pushing that great reset. Okay, because as we know, if you want to bring in a new system, all right, you want to what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say build a new infrastructure. You need to first take down the old one. Now, the problem is, in the eyes of the common people, there's nothing wrong with the old one, right? So if you were to say, well, I'm taking this away to bring something new, more than likely people wouldn't, just sit down and be okay with that. They would suspect something. All right, so you need to have a reason why the old goes down. Something bad happens to it, it gets destroyed, whatnot, and now you're sort of quote unquote forced to bring about the new. All right, so it says here, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has warned that the biggest risk to the U.S. economy is the threat of cyber attacks, which could bring financial institutions to a halt by taking away their ability to track payments. Speaking to the CBS News show 60 Minutes, Powell outlined his concerns as the world evolves and discussed how the U.S. can protect its economy from emerging threats, as well as how the U.S. economy can rebound from the impact of the pandemic. Issuing a warning, the head of America's central banking system said, the risk that the Federal Reserve is keeping its eyes on the most now is cyber risk, or the cyber risk, laying out a situation in which a hack could easily take financial institutions offline. Now, when things like this happen and they fix them or they bring them back online, they have to now upgrade it, because if they keep it the same, then they run the risk of the same hack or the same problem happening twice or happening again. Okay, now we're dealing with economy, we're dealing with payments, and we already know that with the agenda they're trying to push, they're ultimately trying to push what? A new payment system as well. Okay, so it says so when they start talking about stuff like this, it's easy for us to, pick it out because we know what's in the back of their mind, right? We know, see, let me get a quick precept. All right, Micah 2. Okay, in 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands." Now, we know what exactly it is that they're trying to gain at the end. So they work they devise these iniquities, these plans, all right, and they practice it because it is in the power of their hands, all right. But even then, what's that? 2 Corinthians 2:11. All right, it says here, "Lest Satan, which is who? The adversary, all right, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his what? Of his devices." Remember, they devise iniquity, right? So we are not ignorant of his devices. How? Why is it that we're not ignorant of his devices? Because we know what it is at the end of the day that they want to ultimately receive at the end. So when they, start talking about things and dealing with, it's like you're dealing with the economy or dealing with this, that, and the third, we know and understand that what? It's ultimately for an end goal. So when we know that end goal, right? Imagine yourself standing at the destination where these devils are trying to reach. It doesn't matter if they come from straight ahead, if they come from the air, if they come from the ground, if they come from your right or your left, you're going to see them coming. And you're going to see what path, you're going to see where their path ultimately is going to end up. They could make a zigzag, left, right, snake way, but at the end of the day, you know where they're trying to end up. All right, so you know that even if they're going to the far right, you know that at some point they're going to have to cut back to the left because that is where the end goal is at. And that's how we're able to tell, okay, well, they're pushing this and they're pushing that, but we know ultimately where they're trying to get to. So we can see, okay, well, how does this agenda they're pushing ultimately get them a step closer to that ultimate agenda that they want? All right. It says, while there are a number of potential cyber attacks that could cripple the U.S. economy, the Fed chairman said the nightmare scenario for the U.S. would be a hack that removes the ability of institutions to track payments being made and received, right? Buying and selling, right? Bringing part of all the financial system to a halt. Now, if something like this were to happen, then it wouldn't be a surprise if they brought in a new payment system. Maybe something like a digital dollar or a central bank digital currency, right? Because they've been talking about it. So now it's a matter of instituting it. So it says, despite the ever-growing concern of cyber attacks amongst the officials at the Federal Reserve, all right, which that's not really government owned. That's private. It's privately owned. All right, they just have the name Federal Reserve to make it sound more governmental. All right, it says Powell sought to reassure Americans that the institution is equipped to repel or deal with any threats or any threat that emerges, ensuring that it spends so much time, energy, and money guarding against these things. But here's the thing. It's one thing to be equipped to be able to deal with these threats. It's another thing to be equipped, right? Because you can be equipped, but that doesn't mean that you're actually going to, because it's not in their best interest to necessarily deal with these threats, because if they need the threat, right, hypothetically speaking, if they need this thing to happen so that they can, take another step forward towards their agenda, then it doesn't matter how well equipped they are. All right, they're not going to stop it. So now they'll use these words as damage control. Oh yeah, this is a threat, but don't worry, we are well equipped to be able to handle something like this. Okay? But do you actually want to handle something like this? Or are you just telling people you're well equipped to calm them down? Because if something was to go down, then you say, well, what happened? I thought you were well equipped. It says the Federal Reserve isn't the first US-based financial institution to raise the alarm about the risk of cyber attacks and espionage. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, which these elites have their hands in all of this. All right. It says, which has its headquarters in Washington, D.C., has stated that the cyber risk has emerged as a significant threat to the financial system, estimating that it could cost banks up to $100 billion a year. Okay, so now let's say they did do something, all right, to cripple, this financial system, and if America goes down, it's taking a lot of these other countries with it, all right, and they did do something to cripple it. Guess what? That would be an example of Revelation 13 and 16 in the earlier part. It says here, and he causeth, all right, all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, and that what? No man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. They need a reason to usher this in. Now, when you look up the word causeth, going into the Greek poeo, it goes into making ready or fashioning, So that's what, having a reason to institute that mark, having a cause whose effect is going to lead to people receiving that mark. All right. And notice it's dealing with buying and selling as well, right? So hey, this is all in the works. There's a lot of things happening. All right, and as the scripture said, man, we got to stay upon our watch, and measure the times diligently. Okay, because the prophecy comes, man, and sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. But if you're not watching, all right, you'll get caught off guard. You get caught by surprise. But as watchmen, we are not, all right. We are not to get caught off guard like a thief in the night. All right. So, hey, we're going to see. All right. This is another step closer. We're going to see if something similar to this actually does happen. All right. Because it's interesting that they're, starting to push that idea and that thought out there. So, hey, we're going to see what the Lord does. All right. With that, I hope you were edified. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.